over to you, Akash, for your case study. Really, really interested to see what the end result of this was. So over to you.
Thanks, Henry. So I'm going to start off with the principles. I think I tweaked the ordering. So I had a couple of core principles following this course. So the first was to build and deliver a meaningful product. And what we want to do, it was understand what our client, what the larger client base was before we rolled out the MVP. So for me, an MVP isn't just an MVP. It wasn't going to include multiple products or choice of products. And therefore, the target niche was a small percentage of clients, and which we'll come on to shortly. And the purpose of what we did was to ensure we could gauge real feedback and traction, all the way from the customer discovery calls to actually beta testing. And this was so that we could have a really solid foundation to build a good base product before we effectively launched and scaled into a viable business and proposition. And to do that, we also looked to understand what the niche of the demographic and look to go into a bit more detail for current and future market conditions. So a really good example of this is just in the news recently around, around replacement of plastic for bamboo, and that kind of fed into what we were looking to in our core principles. And then the final thing was just to understand the niche of the demographic. So for example, women with sensitive skin or gym goers, and ensure we, again, it was aligned to those market conditions. So the more impetus was for sustainability. So those were the core principles we followed throughout this process, and that you'll start seeing. So I'm going to just move on to the process. So the first part was just understanding. So what is the acute problem we were looking to understand? And again, for example, women with sensitive skin. And then how did that fit into the longer term vision? So divide that into short and longer term. So how do we go first from, women with gym goers to effectively utilizing multiple products and multiple markets? And once we finally got a grasp of the concept, it kind of then went to from the ideation phase. So how do we then use customer surveys, feedback to build on a proposition? How do we really narrow that focus down? Once we got to that ideate stage, what I then want to do was effectively beta testing. So how do we validate the minimum viable offer? And to do this, we launched kind of a beta website, which would then kind of continue to pivot, get feedback. We then look to have product orders, and then effectively have beta products that can be actually tested and get real world feedback. And by doing this, I then ended up in a cycle of experimenting, learning, and validating. And organically, we grew a beta test group. And with this beta test group, they're providing that feedback, and they're going to be our core users as we continue to release and scale the product. So what was the initial problem statement? So we believe that women with sensitive skin are currently frustrated as it's difficult to find anti-resistant and bacterial products that meet their daily needs. And for me, the ideal solution was to have access to products such as like a luxury antibacterial towel that caters to their sensitive skin for different applications. So for example, going to the gym, on the train, applying, removing makeup, etc. So this problem statement evolved and through multiple hypotheses, which you'll see from the next slide. So this is quite different from my first hypothesis. So the first hypothesis was women with sensitive skin feel more confident and beautiful post-workout with our ultra soft antibacterial towels. And in order to validate this hypothesis, I conducted 6 in-depth user interviews and a couple of informal conversations every time I went to and from to the gym. And we also had 5 detailed surveys that then went to these gym goers and got their response. So on the left is an example of the Miro board with the user interviews, and the right is around the actual survey results that we got back from those gym goers. Then the second hypothesis was to really kind of narrow down and focus on this niche. So from going from we help women feel more confident on the go with ultra soft antibacterial towels. This was then refined with, we provide luxury anti-resistant bacterial towels for women with sensitive skin. Ignore the typo there. And there are a couple of OKRs. So how do we build a locked landing page that is simple to understand and order? How do we then convert leads to sample orders for beta users to test the towels? And then how do we validate the MVO with feedback on towels and application to incorporate into the product for bulk orders? So what does that mean? So we launched the site, which had the effectively what our vision was for the branding. So again, that plays into the longer term and how do we evolve the brand. We got beta users to start actually going onto the website and understanding, does the niche make sense? Is it for me? How do I kind of provide feedback onto the site? How do I have a pre-order? So we effectively got a list of 23 interests. Out of that, we had 4 pre-orders and 1 fulfilled sale. After some feedback, we stopped sales. We could have got more, and that's because we were continuing refining from the feedback we got from the website, and then from by providing actual samples for free to some of our beta users. And that way, we found it more effective to get better feedback rather than selling the item. So the third hypothesis was validating that our bamboo towels resonated with women with sensitive skin by applying in their daily use. So like I mentioned in the last part, we provided 5 sample towels to beta users for free. We wanted to understand the end-to-end experience from using the towel to washing and drying. And then we recorded the feedback after several weeks of usage before we updated the specifications in terms of what we wanted to order. So at the bottom right is like the end-to-end, customer journey of what we see for women with sensitive skin using the towel. On the top left is actually one of our beta users laying down the towel after a first use. And then on the right is one of our beta users actually washing the towel and then drying it to see what the longer term impacts were. And we're still collating this feedback as we speak. So it's something we're still refining. This segues nicely to a kind of a product market fit. So from that beta use and from the website and from the product, we've got some initial feedback that the towels are actually soft, they are breathable. And that allows us to understand the split between the bamboo and the spandex, or the materials within those towels that give that luxury feel, the antibacterial. The branding was easy to follow and aligns to the sustainability objective. So both types of beta users understood it quickly. It resonated with them, and it was something that they felt it could scale into like a bigger business. However, there were multiple points of feedback that we do need to refine on the product. So the beta client users wanted to increase color and increase product choice. So something that they are aware it's going to come. It's something that we will inform them as we launch those products. One useful feedback was the improved embroidery of the logo. So as the towels or any apparel is washed, how do we ensure that brand stays strong? How do we ensure we have detailed label information and clear instructions on packaging? So if we take the end-to-end customer experience, so when a client first gets that towel, how do they use it? How do they dry it? How do they wash it, for example, et cetera. We got feedback that we needed to reduce some of the bulkiness of the towels. Some of them are quite thick. So how do we make sure that our products are quite consistent? And then the final useful piece of feedback was, we want to see actual women in the gym using the towel on our website. So something that we are going to work on and make sure we have the right photography for that. So what is the roadmap for this? So at the moment, as I mentioned, we're still in the beta for the website. We're still testing the product samples. And as we get that feedback, that's providing us with increased specs and what the towels, this bit of bamboo, for example, what we need for the labeling or the embroidery. But also is now giving us an idea, a rough estimate in terms of our first bulk order, and something that we're actually negotiating with manufacturers and ensuring we get the right price point. And once we've done this, we were going to then formally launch the website before we then optimize the SEO. So how do people find our site outside of referrals, and then do the referral campaign? So how do we incentivize our local beta users to refer others in terms of using our towels? In the longer term, so this is our roadmap. So on the top left, it's a women with sensitive skin, and that's our current niche. And we're, as I mentioned, we're in the beta and addressing customer feedback. We'll then launch and optimize that on the site. We then want to kind of continue on other streams. So how do we then increase enhanced offering? So enhanced offering, so for example, hoodies and t-shirts, so something that's already come from our beta users, that they also want to see, like something that's breathable, that's sustainable when they go to the gym and when they work out or on the go. We'll continue doing the same cycle of beta testing before we launch and optimize with customer feedback. And then in the longer term, as I mentioned in the roadmap, how do we then move to the next niche, and that's with men? And that's something that we'll start going to the discovery phase under this year before we launch the relevant products and optimize. I haven't got those listed yet because there's still quite a bit of discovery to do on that side. And just about me, so I'm a passionate senior product leader with 8 years product experience. I have a focus and track record on product strategy and fintech, and I'm good at delivering results. So yeah, thank you. If any questions?
Oh, it's really good presentation. So your voice is probably going after had a busy day. No, it's really good. Great as well. It's only 12 minutes, which is awesome. You know, the more concise, the better with these kind of presentations, because those people just get lost in the detail. Yeah, so what I'll do now, go through some really sort of specific feedback. We've got loads of time as well, which is great. Go through specific feedback on the presentation quite quickly, and then we just talk about, you know, some general comments from the 8 weeks and, you know, next steps, I suppose, with this. So just going on to the principles. Yeah, you know, great to see that you made these your own. You're somebody that should be doing that as well. So it's good because, you know, you've got 8 years experience, as you said, but not only that, you've been in like really strong product environments, fast growing products. So that's something I would expect. And that was great to see that you clearly thought those through. The process was good. You sort of stepped up again on your tone, hand movement, used emphasis really well. So that was great to see. You bridged very well. This is a seemingly tiny thing, but it's super important. So you went from, for example, you introduced the problem. Great. And then you said something like, you know, the problem set the stage for the following hypotheses, ... In order to validate these hypotheses, we tried to achieve these key results. So it was crystal clear, like, why have you shown me this page? What's on it? How does it all tie into building out a great product? That's really, really powerful. Those simple connecting phrases, like, here is what we did next and why. So really, really strong, because you're keeping me engaged with this story. Particularly, you know, obviously somebody that's completely new to this process, that's going to be really important. The only criticism I had that wasn't clear was the next page. So if on the you showed the Miro board for the discovery calls, and you said, and here's our Miro board, and here's the survey feedback. I'd like to get a bit more of a story there. So it's like, we took notes as we did the interviews, we aggregated those, and here are the sort of common themes that came up. Example one, sensitivity of skin was a big topic, as was gym towels being wet or uncomfortable. Right, so you're giving a bit more color to the story that you're telling, right? Because ultimately you're trying to get somebody to buy into either you and how you tell a story, or hey, you know, give me some resources so that we can, you know, help this customer build a great product for them. But you did do that elsewhere. On the hypothesis 2, again, you did a really good bridge. She said, you know, you showed those screenshots, and it's like, what does that all mean? Well, we launched a website, we got beta testers, and we tried to get some sales to validate that the offer was valuable. So get good. You gave really good context. Results were awesome. You know, 23 people interested, 4 pre-orders, 1 sale is really, really strong. And it's good you explained again why you prioritize feedback. So it's like, great, we validated we can get some sales, but we wanted to take, pause and work out how we could improve it. I thought it was very strong. Hypothesis 3, I thought it was really cool that you applied the product market fit engine to a physical product as well. It's completely applicable. It's a really nice way of just collecting these themes. And again, if you're pitching this right to stakeholders, doing that nice word cloud, even the bullet points as you had it, word cloud, just to visualize it, is a really powerful tool and something that's super simple to do. On the customer journey, you sort of skipped over explaining what that was. So I would say, here's the customer journey map. It helped us to do X, Y, and Z. And here's why, this is, and you're implying this is why this is something that's really valuable to do. Same thing with the discovery calls. Again, it's like, from doing all these discovery calls, we actually realized that this insight was really important instead of this one. So you're always sort of reinforcing the value of product discovery. I like the image of the washing machine. It's it's a nice little story. It's like, wow, there's a real person using this and they were testing it out. These are all really good ways to build a story. Product market fit engine, nice to see those learnings. I was thinking you could, again, it depends on the context, but if you were trying to, pitching this process internally, again, explain what is product market fit engine, what's product market fit, why is that really important, why are we using this process, but depends on the context. And the roadmap I thought was excellent. I think it makes a lot of sense to optimize that first product because, in terms of most of the points are going to be pretty relevant for the different product lines, at least for the personas. So if you can really nail the messaging, get a really strong landing page, you can use that template for launching women's hoodies or men's towels as well. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm just going to wrap up with the case study. Thanks for that, Akash.